This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Yay.
Yay! Is right. So you did something this week that is pretty important as a civil duty, I think. You voted.
Yeah.
You did. You voted. And it seems to me that voting for someone with autism probably feels like a heap of stress because of just all that comes along with that. For people that don't have autism, it's stressful enough anyway. You know, finding out weeding through what is accurate and what is misleading, finding out exactly what you're voting on. Not just the people, but the amendments.
Yeah.
And you know that happen every time that we vote.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, like that you voted. So this is not the first time that you voted.
No.
Okay. But it used to be, when we lived in Pennsylvania, we lived in such a teeny tiny town that you knew everybody.
Yeah.
And it was not like a typical voting experience because you walked in and they knew you and you knew them.
Yeah.
And, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, less than 250 people in the town.
Right. And our Dusty D dog went with us every time we voted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a very relaxed environment. When you turned 18, you got to become a member of a political party of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think... I'm not surprised whatsoever that when that time came, you became a constitutionalist. And the reason that doesn't surprise me is because it's about rules.
Yeah.
This is how it is. This is what you follow.
Yeah.
Cut and dry. Black and white. It's just pretty simple.
Yeah.
After that, you changed parties. And now you are independent.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't surprise me at all either, because you do things your way on everything.
Yeah.
All the time. You're an independent thinker.
If the previous podcasts haven't pointed that out, I'd be surprised.
Yes, I agree. So, anyway, you voted, and there's an awful lot to that. There's a lot of preparation that comes into voting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I helped you. You did research?
A little. Yeah.
I imagine it's tough to find out all the information. Yeah. What they have now is because the internet, you've got just showed how old I was. Now that they have internet, how old I am here. It's easy because you can go online, you can get your sample ballot online, and then you can click on the different opportunities to vote, mm-hmm. different subjects, and then you get the detail spelled out. So it does make it easier. I helped you to fill out a sample ballot, mm-hmm. paper ballot, and we each had one, and I helped you fill yours out.
Yeah.
And you took that with you, and did that help?
Yeah. It was just transfer the answers.
Yeah. So it made it pretty...
a little bit easier. Yeah. So there's been some conversations that have been happening, and I want to talk about people with disabilities voting. Mm-hmm. Because most states, they don't require voters to demonstrate competency. And at first when I saw that made me chuckle, because I'm like, well, that's the truth. Yeah. And I don't even think of a disability doesn't come to mind when I read about competency. When I see that. So anyway, that just struck me as funny. But anyway, states also, there are states that do impose competency regulations, and so they have to ensure that the regulations are not so constrictive that they single out any specific group or disorder. But it's basically saying that, are you competent enough to understand what you're voting for?
Mm-hmm.
And again, people without a disability have difficulty sometimes really knowing what they're voting for.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of it's double talk. The way that some things are written, it's confusing. Does a yes mean yes? Does a no mean no? Does it mean it's the way that things are worded. It can be very, very complicated.
I've only ever heard of one bill, or that didn't pass, by the way, but it was like 12 words long.
Uh-huh.
And it was very straightforward, but nothing ever came of it. Because I guess there weren't enough hands in the pie, I think is the term.
That is it. That I'm not really sure what you mean by that this time. You mean
that there were no not constituencies. I don't even know what those are. There weren't enough opportunities for people to get more money.
Oh, okay. So is that what you think voting is? That it's a way for certain political parties to get money, or states to get money for
whatever.
Amendments
somewhat. There are a lot of politicians that shouldn't be.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't like politicians to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the double talk and everything like that. It just
Mm-hmm.
makes it so hard to understand them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or trust them.
Sure.
And I mean, historically, politicians aren't the best people.
There
are some good ones,
mm-hmm.
but historically, no.
Well, there are some really good people that have run for office and go to Washington and find that the way things are done there make it impossible to get done what they had hoped to get done.
Yeah.
And we always hope that those things will change, that just being an honest, good person that's going to fight for their constituents, the people that voted them in.
That's what a constituent is.
Mm-hmm. Voted them in. Then they, you would hope that once they took their message to Washington, they would be able to get something done. And on both sides, there's Democratic and Republican are the two parties that really have the most support and the most say-so.
Yeah.
And there's good people on both sides. There's also people that you describe on both sides. So, but it is important to vote. It is, and I think that it's really important that you voted, because you need to stand up for your rights, for what you need.
Yeah.
People. That's how people should vote, according to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The individual that they're voting for, but also it is important that you vote. And does your vote mimic my votes? Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes, sometimes, because you
are opinionated, and you're not going to just do what I tell you to do.
Right.
And I wouldn't want. Well, I was going to say I wouldn't want you to do what I tell you to do. When it comes to voting,
Yeah.
I want you to be able to express yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to gain the best understanding that you can. But you're standing up for when you're casting that vote. You're standing up for your rights
Right.
as a person with a disability,
Mm-hmm.
and for the person and the opportunities that serve you the most. I just think there's a whole nother conversation about if a person with autism is not capable of voting on their own, do their parents take them to vote anyway and show them how to vote? I feel like if a person is over 18, they're a part of our society, and the government is involved in their life one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And if a person that is 18 is able to vote, then they have the right to vote. If they need help with that, then they still have the right to vote. Some states have said, you can take 1 to 2 people in there to help you vote in the voting booth, if need be. Some states make it more difficult, but some are very comfortable with saying that if a person needs help,
Yeah.
take someone in to help you out.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what it was like for you when you voted.
Okay.
Because here's what comes to mind for me.
Mhm.
Here's what comes to mind. The scenario is that you would have to get to some place that you're unfamiliar with. You're not sure how it works once you get there. You have to be in a social environment because you're waiting in line
Mm-hmm.
with a variety of people, which
Yeah.
is, in my opinion, is wonderful.
Yeah.
The more variety, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But you're doing that, then you're getting into actual giving your information. I feel like that could be something that's stressful as well. The time where you give your identification
Mm-hmm.
to somebody, and what do they do with that? That's not a familiar scenario for a lot of people with autism. And for you, this is a totally different, experience. First time you're going to this place, first time you're in line with this group of people. The first time that you're in Florida, how are they doing you give information. Is that enough? Is it the right information? Do they have your information correct in the system?
Yeah.
What do you have showing you that you can go vote now? And then they sent us to these things that are all across the country. They're not a table. They're not a desk. They're just kind of
They're a platform.
a little platform, but I'm pretty sure that what makes it official is the cardboard that goes around it. To ensure no copying,
Yeah.
no cheating. Actually, it's for privacy.
Yeah.
But it always makes me think, don't look over here, cheater. And then the thing that cracks me up about it is that our entire country of grown-ups are thrilled to get a sticker. That just seems so funny to me. But I'm right in there. I got a sticker.
Yeah.
I gave it to Einstein. Put it on his little I put it on his little tag, his little name tag. But
Only you, Mom.
well, so it seems funny to me. So about that,
Mm-hmm.
could you how did it feel for you to vote? And also, could you talk about maybe how it might feel to other people with autism
that are going to vote, because it feels like it would be overwhelming. A lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties, a lot of new things.
Right. Well, I'll start out with my personal experience, and then I'll move on to how I could help other people with autism get through voting.
Okay.
So for me, whenever I initially started voting, I was 18, I think, whenever the first ballot came out for me. Because, I mean, it's like every other year. And so, I believe it was just senators and people like that, no presidential vote that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who most of the people were.
Right.
To be honest, I voted for who I thought had nice names.
Okay. Yeah, which I would say there's probably more people that do that than you think.
Yeah. Turns out I made some wrong votes because of that. But
did you learn from it though?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. There's different things like, do you want this judge to stay in,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth, and it's really easy to fill it out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be an electronic vote or a written one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one thing that up until this time that I voted,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really like it didn't seem very important to me
Mm-hmm.
to vote for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only one that really seemed important was the presidency and vice presidency.
Right. And this election felt different to you?
Yeah. Because I think it finally registered that the president can't always do things if the Senate and the House of Representatives don't agree with him.
Mm-hmm.
Or her.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from the opposite viewpoint is that if it's all one party, there's no checks and balances because they are all in agreement. So the other party does not really have a voice.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's more checks and balances than just those two branches, though.
Typically, yes.
Yes. Now,
here's what I'm saying about that, because I don't think you understand what I meant by that. Let's say the president wants to do something.
mm-hmm.
Whoever the president is, they want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to work with the House of Representatives and the Senate to get something accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if both of those parties are the same party as the president,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier for the president to get something accomplished.
Yes.
If both of those are not the same party, it's more difficult. If one is not the same party, it's still difficult.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Because
That's where the term lame duck president comes from.
That's after.
Well, it's usually the end of the term, but
Yes, right,
yeah.
right. Right. So I didn't know that if you really understood what I was saying, so I just wanted to elaborate.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And so, I mean, I like I said, I finally started to understand that choosing senators and people for the House is very important. Just pretty much as important as picking a president. And one thing that always has seemed important to me was the amendments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes they can be very misleading in how they're worded.
Correct. And it almost seems like it's deliberate.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be. It also is the verbiage is not the way that we typically speak. So
it's legalese.
Yes, and down at the bottom, this time around, they kind of spelled out, okay, this is what it means.
Yeah. Which was really cool.
Yes.
And so that made it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Right. I would like to say, before I forget, we're down here in Florida, and there is an awful lot going on. Maybe we'll get to that in a second. But I'm happy to have participated in ending dog track racing.
Yes.
I will shout that to anybody to hear, because yes, it was a horrific behavior and treatment, and I stand up for the animals every time.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy, and am proud of the Floridians that voted that way.
Yeah.
To end this inhumane treatment. Okay.
You have a big grin on your face.
I do, and I love the animals. I love them so much.
Yeah.
So, So,
the second part, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest thing about voting is actually writing down the votes.
Mm-hmm.
And
while you're there?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially if you take that sample ballot.
Yes.
If you don't take a sample ballot, or if you have
or at least some notes of some kind.
Yes. Think for anybody that's on the autism spectrum going in to vote, it takes a lot of stress out of the experience if you've done the research at home, gotten help from anybody, if that's what you need. Fill in the sample ballot, take the sample ballot with you, so that it's like Josh said, all that you're doing is copying it.
Yeah.
If you go into the voting booth and you've not looked at a sample ballot, it can feel overwhelming, because you're having to read. It's like a giant test. That's what it feels like. It's like you're going in and taking a test, and you hope that you hope you do well. You hope you pass.
Maybe that's how it feels for you, but I mean, for me, this is going back to me, not necessarily people with autism.
Okay.
The whole thing's really easy.
Okay.
And it's not really. I don't like politics. I try and leave the room every single time the news is on because of politics.
And specifically, what you don't like about politics, what you don't like, is for people to speak in a way that sounds mean or
negative
or extremely confrontational.
Yeah.
That bothers you anyway, whether they're a politician or not.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense to me. And you've said before, you don't. After hearing politicians speak, there's a big chunk of them that you have questions on whether or not they're telling the truth.
And some of them I just want to punch in the face, but yes.
Oh. Oh, okay. Well, Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I think that most of the country has felt that way at one point or another.
Yes, and fortunately, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Otherwise, our prisons will be overflowing more so than they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is that? I'm surprised to hear you say that for you it's easy when you go if you didn't have it filled out already.
Then let me clarify this then. Whenever I first started voting, first time I was a bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there to where it was at, and like I said, like you had said, our town, everybody knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And even despite that, you just had to show an ID because that's legally what you have to do.
Right.
And okay, go ahead and vote.
Mm-hmm.
It was very laid back, very easy,
Mm-hmm.
while still being professional.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very easy, very simple. And I remember that year it was an electronic one.
Mm-hmm.
And an electronic voting system with a touch screen and everything. And so I made my votes and everything like that, and I got a sticker.
Yep.
And that was it. It was not hard whatsoever. I was like, huh, that's a lot easier than I expected.
Mm-hmm. There was and then that's the time that you're talking about, that afterwards you thought, oh, I voted for some of them that,
Yeah.
maybe I should have done something different.
Yeah.
And so and I understand that whole experience, and I think that what's happening in our country politically has got so many people involved that were not involved before, just because of what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I think it seems like it makes a lot of sense to me that this time it was important to you.
Yeah.
Whereas other times, I might have reminded you a lot that, okay, voting is coming up.
Well, you did this time too.
I did this time too, yes. Yes. But this time it seemed like you really understood the significance.
Yeah.
And the importance of your vote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it is important for people with autism and for their family to vote, because it ensures that government develops and implements good policies that affect you.
Yeah.
And affect people that are on the spectrum. It is important to do that.
Yeah.
So, like everybody knows now, we're down in Florida, and let me just say, this, I just about daily, well, not when I'm at the beach. The beaches here were voted the best beaches in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and they are beautiful. So
Yeah.
sometimes in the summer, it is like this turquoise green
Yeah.
water. It is amazing, and there's areas that you can go that I've actually gone out and floated in the water, like, because it's like a warm bath. Some areas it's the Gulf,
Mm-hmm.
so the waves aren't huge,
Mm-hmm.
but there are areas that you can go where it's more of a bay type,
Yeah.
because it's the bay. And just floating is just it's just so beautiful. So I do love that. But I miss, your sister Bug and I were just talking about this today,
Mm-hmm.
that I miss the change of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, if we were up there, it's cold out.
Yeah.
And I know it's not Thanksgiving yet, so
You'd still be in a parka.
A fake down.
Yeah.
Fake down. That's the thing.
Animal rights.
Animal rights.
but the malls are decorated for Christmas, and it's just, I loved being up there because everything was. It was cold, and you would go inside the mall then, and it was just so festive, and you'd warm up. I miss the hot chocolate and hot apple cider, and
whenever you were cold.
Yes, well, which is most of the time up there.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't have the same effect down here.
No, it doesn't,
because it's usually so warm down here.
Right.
Yeah.
And even up there, in such a small town, do you remember on Halloween?
Yeah.
It always reminded me of the movie Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, because there were so many kids.
So many kids, and it was...
It was like they outnumbered the adults like 3-1.
And it was really cool.
Yeah.
And remember Dusty used to go trick-or-treating?
With his little devil costume.
Yes, and people would not only have, candy for the kids, but they knew Dusty was coming, so they had little dog treats for him.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. It just was a very comfortable, nice experience.
Yeah.
So I do miss that about living up north, where you feel the crisp air, and it was so festive, and it's just something that I really miss.
Yeah.
Down here, like I said, I love the beach. I love that part of being here.
We had 4 people for Halloween this year.
Well, yeah. So you stayed home, and I went with Bug and the kids over and went to a different place to trick or treat.
Yeah. We had 4 people show up at the house. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I bought the candy we like. Yeah. So I do miss it up there. So all my Pennsylvania friends, I miss you. Some races here in Florida are not decided yet.
What?
I don't know if you know that. This is too close to call. The governor's race and the Senate race. And I believe there's others further down south. But those 2 races, they're having to go into a recount because they're too close. And a term that I'm hearing, that they found votes.
What?
They found votes. I'm not sure how I just picture when they say they found votes is like finding a Dorito in the couch cushion. I mean, I don't know how you just find votes. I don't know how you just find votes. I'm
leery of that.
I don't know. I think that I don't know enough to know how it happened.
Right.
So I can't say one way or another. But just hearing that sounds like, what? How do you misplace?
Yeah.
How do you misplace votes? But and across the country, some votes are still coming in. They're still counting them. So, provisional ballots. What?
The what you just reminded me of was the recount thing. Mm-hmm. We live here in Florida, and the whole thing of I demand a recount. Who was that? Al Gore?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Yes. This Florida gets in the news for a lot of times for things that you just don't expect.
Florida makes fun of Florida.
Yes.
I mean, there's a whole website for Florida Man. Like in the news, like Florida Man saves alligator, loses hand, something like that.
There are so many things, Josh. Since we've come here, it's just easy for me to say Florida, the other F word. Yes, because that's how it feels sometimes, majority of the time. Yes. So, anyway, what about how do you? Because I want to wrap up here. Mm-hmm. Any suggestions that you have? So
don't do drugs.
Right, true. Unless they're prescribed.
Yes.
And then take them as directed.
Yes.
So voting. So the strong recommendation that we both have is to fill out the sample ballot.
Yes.
That takes the stress, that part of the stress away.
Mm-hmm.
That really what you're doing is you've already got your answers there. You take that sample ballot in and just transfer. You copy it.
Yeah, and not only that, but then you actually know what you're voting for. Then.
Right. Correct, because you've already done the research. And if research is difficult to do, then you talk to people about it.
Yeah.
There are an awful lot of states out there that are wonderful, that help people with any form of disability to be able to vote, and they can. Some states allow for people to take to vote, to give an oral vote when that's necessary.
Mm.
To take somebody in with you, there's just. I just feel like some places have got it right.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this, so we can get out of here.
Mm.
So we're telling people, take a sample ballot. What else? I would say get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
The night before.
Yeah. Have an ID ready. Like, have it outside your wallet, but in your pocket, with nothing else in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can just pull it right out and have it ready for them
Mm-hmm.
whenever you get up to the front of the line.
Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is they're going to look at your ID to see that that's you,
Mm-hmm.
and to see that you've signed it.
Yeah.
And they check both of those things. Although, I have to say, signatures change all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, it's difficult. I mean, you sign your name with your middle initial, or you don't, and things change. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of not always accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
It's not meant to be a stressor. If you're having difficulties with anything, feel free to ask someone who's there if you can get some help.
Mm-hmm. Most polling places have volunteers, and they're all throughout the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, to first of all, dress warm. If you are up north or Midwest, you need to make sure that you have a coat with you, because sometimes you have to stand outside for a while.
Yeah.
And to know that from the time that you're in that line, there's volunteers that can help to let you know what's happening, that's where you need to be. Once you get up to the door and you're about to enter the building, there's going to be typically somebody there helping you with that,
Mm-hmm.
to show you which direction to go. A lot of times they put signs up which direction to go. Even before that, let's back up a little bit. When you go to the polling place, there will be signs telling you where to go to vote.
Yeah.
But there's people all along the way that are guiding you what to do. So even after you are in line, you go in the building, you get your ID checked, there's somebody else guiding you where to go next.
Yeah.
And then, you go wherever you go next, they're guiding you to the booth. When you're done, they make it clear where to take that ballot that you just filled out.
Yeah.
And so that they're typically good about that.
Yeah.
Not always, but the experiences that I've had have been positive.
I know that this last time we got there early enough that we were like 6th or 7th in line, you and I.
Yes, because we got there about 6:45.
Yeah, which was when they opened.
At 7, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us getting in line and then immediately 6 cars pulled in.
Right, just like that.
Yeah.
Yes. another thing that you've never done, that your dad did because he didn't know if he was going to have jury duty on the 6th or not. But people can do absentee voting. So they can fill it out and mail it from their home.
Yeah.
If going to the polling place is too
stressful or difficult,
overwhelming, you can fill out that ballot and mail it in.
Yeah.
So that's always an option. So we'll see what happens this election. Like I said, there's a lot of races that are kind of still being looked at.
Yeah.
We don't know. It's not going to change the House or the Senate, but they're still being decided. It'll change what happens in each state.
Right.
For us, one of them is a governor.
Right.
The other one is a senator. But anyway, for us, the governor is very, very important.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else that you'd like to share with anyone?
I may be awesome, but you are too. Never forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your vote matters.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, because you matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your needs matter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I'm glad it's over with. Not the podcast, the voting.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy that it's over with because it was, boy, building up to that, there was a lot of, and of course now there's protests and, it's a time in our country where things are
upheaval,
and a lot of people are speaking up, and they have the right to do that, and so it's cool. All right. So listen, everybody. Speaking of voting, you can go and give us a 5-star review. So you can,
if you feel we deserve it, which I hope you do.
Yes, and we appreciate it. It helps us to, or if you want to write a review, that will be great. But 5 stars is great. It helps us to be seen more, and I should say heard more, and to reach more people. And that's what we're trying to do, is to make a difference for individuals and families and out there that based on what we've experienced and what we're doing. If you have any suggestions, let us know. As always, we appreciate you so much. And all right, love you.
Bye.